Once all of your RSVPs have rolled in, you now have 100-something people to fit into your reception. Whether that be at an assigned round table or open seating at a family-style table, it's something you need to plan for. And it's something you don't want to just kind of like, I think people will find a seat probably.
Yeah, it's not one of the better moves to make.
It's like Hunger Games when it comes to seating charts at weddings.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
It gets intense.
People get their feelings hurt over seating charts, which is kind of crazy actually when you think about it.
Yeah,
but
you got invited.
Yeah, like
I wasn't invited. I mean,
rude.
Rude. Come on. You got invited to a wedding, someone's wedding day.
I know. People get really crazy about it.
Yes, it's a stack ranking of your relationship against other people's relationships with them. Yes.
100%.
It's not, I mean, it's not a question.
Do you want to hear a good story?
Always.
There was this time, I'm going to just leave it very blank, but there was this time where this couple decided to sit at the sweetheart table because it was open seating.
Get out of
and
here.
I had to ask them to move.
That's amazing.
That was one of the more uncomfortable moments I've had, having to ask somebody to move because there was clearly a table for the bride and groom with 2 seats at it.
You know what, though? I like it. They take what they want.
They did take what they wanted.
That's
Not
amazing.
for long. Not for long.
Did they drink out of the champagne glass, the toasting glasses, too?
Probably.
Did they start eating the cake beforehand?
Probably. It was an awkward situation.
That's horrible.
I was like, excuse me, you see how there's 2 seats here? They're reserved for the bride and groom.
That's amazing.
So there's a good story for you.
That's an amazing story. I'm not going to even try to top that. That was fantastic.
Been saving that one.
Yeah, you have. You've been sitting on that little nugget. We should actually just do an entire session on stories. Random musings of Samie.
Random musings. That would be a good one.
Like a random guest stealing the sweetheart table. I'm sure you could tell us some stories about party crashers, wedding crashers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yep, I sure could. Yeah.
Horror stories and transportation.
A lot of interesting stories.
Yeah. I think we should look into this. I think
we'll put it on the roadmap.
We'll put it on the roadmap. All right. I'm into it. Any Hoosers, let's get back to our regular scheduled program. So, seating options.
Okay.
What are the different layout options that you can have when it comes to seating options? I've obviously already touched on a couple in my intro, but if you wouldn't mind elaborating for us some of the different layout options there are.
So it's all going to depend on your space. And I know we did a podcast not too long ago about floor plans. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it. But you're going to have a lot of different options as far as tables. You have your traditional rounds. You have your rectangles or squares. You can do them family style, which is like long tables combined, which is pretty cool. You can do cocktail style where you just have mostly like high tops and maybe no assigned seating in that one. Head table, king's table, the table with 2 chairs, also known as a sweetheart table for the bride and groom, not the random guests. So there's lots of different ways that you can like lay out your space. It all kind of depends on what's in-house at your venue and what your preference is. Some people like round tables, some people hate round tables, you know.
Can you only use the tables that the venue provides, or can you go and rent more?
You can definitely go and rent more.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. I would almost encourage it because it helps to kind of change up the layout. I like it when you have a mix of different kinds of tables as opposed to just, one kind, all rounds or all rectangles. It makes it a little more interesting.
Mix up the tables.
Yeah, I would do that.
So what do you think about doing like a high top cocktail and then alternating high top cocktail down to a child's maybe park bench or bench?
This is why you're not in charge of floor plans.
Well, you would just alternate adults, kids, right? It would be exciting, fun way to incorporate the children with a different.
So we're gonna keep moving on. We'll put that one on the back burner. Come back to that one.
Okay. I'm
all about alternating tables, but maybe not in the sense that
dramatic.
Ryan is touching on here.
I don't really, but I don't really know much about this. So, should guests steal the sweetheart table? Where would the couple sit?
So you kind of have 3 options. You have 4 options for the couples. You can do your sweetheart table, which is just the 2 of you at a table. You can do your traditional head table, which is, you 2 and your bridal party on one side of the table. You can do a king's table, which is bridal party, usually their dates, and the two of you on both sides of a rectangle table. Usually it's a couple of those combined. Or some couples don't want a special table and they might just want to sit with their guests. So maybe at like a table with their bridal party, like a round or a square, or with their family. Sometimes people choose to include parents at that head table. So those are a couple of options.
Could they just be like, go out to the loading dock and eat a burger?
Man, maybe they would want to at that point.
I mean, it sounds good to me. So, yes? No? Oh, jeez. All right. Sorry, guys. I tried. You heard it from the planner. Where does the bridal party set?
Generally, it depends on the type of table, like we just talked about. But generally at a head table or a king's table or some kind of designated bridal party table.
Okay. Usually near the couple.
Exactly.
Got it. And then the family, where do they sit?
Usually they're at guest tables close to the bridal party and the couple. But sometimes they're at the head table. I would say less often, but sometimes they are.
Okay.
Like, especially if you have like a smaller, like if you have like an all family bridal party, then you'll probably want to include your parents up there too.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And then I already kind of touched on this about the Hunger Games, assign, not assign. So it's always a touchy subject. Should you have assigned seats?
So no, you do not always have to have assigned seats. I am probably a little more in the assigned seat camp than some, just because I do think it gets a little bit crazy sometimes.
And by camp, you mean you're the mayor of the camp.
A little bit. I would say that very formal weddings, yes, you definitely need seating. If you're having a plated dinner, you need seating. If you have a lot of like diverse groups or you have a lot of drama between like family or friends, then in that case, I would definitely do assigned seats so that like, your two aunts who hate each other don't end up accidentally at the same table or something. Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you have your videographer ready.
Exactly. Some drama for you. But I think that assigned seating helps to give people a place to go, and it gives them a place that's theirs for the reception. They can sit there, they can put their bag there. I think a lot of people like that. I'm not saying it's always required, but I do think it generally gives people direction, which is always a good thing.
I've definitely seen some fights over seats. And then people like to flip their chair up and then put their purse on top or their camera or their whatever random items.
If you're not doing assigned seats, then it's like a mad dash. And everybody wants to get a chair. Like you said, like they put their jacket or their purse or they flip the chair up or they want to claim that chair. And then there's like awkwardly one chair at the table maybe.
Right.
So if you're not doing assigned seats, I would make sure that you either have more than enough seats so that everybody can have a seat. Or if you're intending for people to stand because you're having stations, make sure that it's like, it's not like awkward where like you have 90 seats and you have 100 guests and like you only have 10 people standing. And those 10 people are like, wait a second, I don't have a seat. Like, where's my seat?
Should've moved faster.
Right. So, I mean, I've definitely had instances where people are like, well, I'm family, I should have a chair, And it's like, well, you're like extended family, so you didn't get an assigned table and sorry, there's not enough seating for everybody, and this is really an awkward situation now to kind of explain to you. So just think about that. If you have a lot of older guests too, I would definitely do assigned seats and seating for everybody.
So besides the mad dash, what other unintended consequences, we're going rogue, people, what other unintended consequences have you seen personally? Again, mad dash aside. For
not doing assigned seats?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes people like feel really uncomfortable just because they want to have a place to sit. So it's kind of like they're awkwardly standing at this cocktail table until somebody gets up and then they're going to like swoop in and like take a seat. I don't know. That can be a little bit awkward. I think it's sometimes awkward for people because they need to go get food, but they don't want to leave their stuff at a cocktail table because it doesn't really feel like their seat, I would make sure that you have tables reserved for family and they know who that family is. I've seen it where it'll say like reserved for family, and then like, you know, your great aunt is like, well, I'm family, I should sit at this table. And then like your mom comes in and she's like, well, where's my seat? Like, I don't have a seat. So I think that those are some of the consequences. If you're having more of a laid back, relaxed, and your group is more laid back and relaxed, then I think it's less likely.
Like eating burgers in the loading dock, kind of laid back.
Probably not quite that laid back,
Okay.
but yeah, I just think that sometimes people like to have direction. They like to know where to go. And I think sometimes people get a little like weirded out when they don't have somewhere to sit. I would also say if it's like cold outside and you accounted for like half your seats being outside, that's not a great situation either.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So things to think about.
Yeah, that's tough. So and we kind of touched on a little bit of this throughout that, but like, what are the biggest differences?
Between assigning and not assigning?
Yeah. Organization versus mayhem?
A little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to assign a seat. You could assign just a table, and give people a table to go to, and then they can pick their seat and pick who they're sitting next to.
It doesn't feel quite as competitive.
No. And it's not quite as formal if you do it that way either. So I think you can definitely do that without it being quite as much work. I mean, that is one of the benefits of not assigning seats. It's a lot of work at the end of planning. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differences.
And we'll touch on that subject here in a minute. Okay. But, I guess, if you're not doing stations, but you don't want to assign seats, is that even an option for you?
Yes, but make sure you have a lot of extra seats.
Okay.
Like if you have 100 people, I would probably do seating for like at least 115.
Interesting.
So that's going to add a lot of money because that's going to be at least another 2 tables.
That was my next question. So how does that affect the budget? Is it just simply the venue brings out more chairs?
Maybe.
Oh, that was a loaded maybe.
If your venue's including tables and chairs and linens, then sure. If they're including, tables and chairs and linens for 100 people, then now you're having to pay for an extra 15 people. If the venue's not providing that, then now you're having to pay for that as an extra cost, and that's going to probably be an extra 2 tables.
Interesting.
Because you didn't want to, I mean, it just depends. Some people don't want to assign tables because it's a lot of work. Some people don't want to. Yeah, and drama, because then you assign a table and somebody's mad because they're not as close to you. And then some people don't want to assign tables because they just want it to be more relaxed. Sometimes that is achieved with not assigning tables. Sometimes it's not. It just depends on your group. If your group's going to be like, oh, I need a seat, then it's not going to be more relaxed because they're going to be flustered.
Have you ever had a mother of a groom come out and measure with a measuring tape the distance between the tables to make sure that they were equal and make sure that there was no favoritism going on whatsoever?
Not at any weddings that I have
planned.
My company has planned.
Interesting. All right.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay. So it sounds like everybody loves Raymond, doesn't it? I just dated myself again. Friends references, Raymond references.
That one's really dated.
That is dated. That's I had to reach deep on that one.
Yeah.
So who goes where, Samie? How many people fit at a table?
Depends on the type of table. A 5-foot round can fit 8 people comfortably, 10 people at the max, 10 people if you have shafari chairs at the max. And no chargers. If you have those big like banquet chairs and you have chargers, then you're looking at 8 people for that table, and then it'll go up from there.
What about one of those big massaging chairs like at Brookstone?
Maybe 4 people.
That'd be a bougie wedding.
Yeah, it would. But I would say anywhere on average from 6 to 10 people, depending on what kind of place setting you're looking at and what kind of chair you're looking at and what kind of table size.
Okay.
But we can link to that. We'll link to that. So make sure you go check it out on the site so you can have a little handy reference.
And just thinking about, producing a podcast and things like that. When you guys go back through this, could y'all tell me how to spell bougie? I'm just kind of curious. I'm just wondering
Sure.
how would one spell that?
We will look that up for
Thank you. I'm just curious.
We'll get back to you.
It'll be in my inbox.
It'll be a good use of time.
Yeah.
And if anybody else is interested, email us.
Yeah.
We'll let
It'll be
you
in the
know
show
as well.
notes.
It'll be in the show notes.
Spelling of bougie.
Moving on.
Just kind of curious.
Just a curious question.
Yeah, wondering minds. What's the inquiring minds? That's the term. What's the best way to assign?
To assign
Not
bouginess?
bougie, not bouginess. That's easier to assign. No. What's the best way to assign your tables? Like who goes where?
Start with your bridal party, obviously. They're going to either go at your head table or maybe tables right next to you and their dates, where they're going. And then I would start with your immediate family, grandparents. Where are they going? Who's sitting with who? Are you going to have all of one side of the couple's family on one side of the room and the other side of the couple's family on the other side of the room? Or are you going to mix it up? So I'd make those decisions. And then I would put people who either know each other, if you can fill a whole table with that. So maybe coworkers or aunts and uncles, cousins, those kinds of things, college friends. Or if you have a couple of mishmash that don't really go with anybody, try to get them with people who have similar interests. So think about that. Like maybe your best friend is from Texas and you have a bunch of friends that, you know,
Went to Oklahoma.
Yeah. There we go. Football reference. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be a good episode
Roll Tide.
without. And maybe you can put them together because you know they'll have something in common to talk about. So
Right.
put some thought
Mutual
into it.
hatred for each other's teams.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Should make for a fun dinner.
Yeah. Do you play matchmaker with people you want to meet and get to meet each other? Have
Probably,
you ever seen that happen?
I probably wouldn't.
You probably wouldn't do that?
Yeah. And it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah. That sounds kind of weird.
Yeah. It's a little bit awkward.
You've heard that question asked though.
If it makes sense because it's not going to be so obvious, then maybe. But I wouldn't make it like a singles table. That's kind of like singling people out with the singles table.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice
you
play
like
on
that?
words. Yeah, that's good. So does the actual number table matter that they are assigned? Like I would want to be number 1.
Right. It shouldn't.
Your brother Matt's favorite number is number 5. So would
It-
he
it
want to be
does-
at table 5?
It does matter to some people.
Matt, I hope you're listening. Shout out.
It does matter to some people. It might matter to your parents, so I would ask them, and if they're going to be bothered by it, then I would just do that. First off, I would decide if you want your head table numbered, because you're probably going to want to be number 1. And then
Good point.
I would work your way around the room. So if it matters to your parents and they want to be table, 1 and 2, good luck deciding who gets who. Whoever matters, whoever cares. I mean, not who matters. They both matter equally. But whoever cares, then I would make them, table 1 and circle around the room so that the numbers make sense. 1 should be next to table 2, which should be next to table 3.
Sure.
Don't make table 1 next to table 7 just because people want to be at a specific table.
And also your planner is going to be a little confused when they're running around to verifying.
Everybody's going to be a little confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would keep your parents close to the couple. I would keep your grandparents away from the speaker. I would, make sure your young people are near the dance floor or the bar. That's just a few good tips, but the number shouldn't matter.
Sure. So I'm going to ask you a different question that just kind of came to mind here.
Awesome.
Got to keep you on your toes,
I love it.
Table numbers. What are some fun things that you've seen people do that are unique outside of just like, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever? Just fun things. I feel like I've heard you tell some stories about that.
I had a couple he was a pilot, and they did all of their favorite cities, their airport codes. That was really fun. I've had a few couples who have done pictures of them at that age. So like, her and him
that's
both
awesome.
at 1 year old, like pictures of them at 1 on
Yeah.
table 1. I think that's really cute.
That's adorable.
Yeah, that's really, really cute. I love it when there's some kind of personal tie. I've had people who've picked like favorite books and named them after like their favorite books together, or favorite, just even put different quotes on their table numbers. So you can have a lot of fun with it. I would personalize it. I would recommend still, even if you do named tables, like maybe you name it, like they named it their airport codes.
Right.
We still had a table number just to make things a little bit easier for people. So
Logistically,
it wasn't just like, where's table CLT? You know, it was like, I'm at CLT, table 3, where's that? It made things just a little bit easier for people when they were moving, because that can take a really long time and you don't want to eat up your reception with people trying to be like, where's my table? You know?
Right.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of fun ways to do it.
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay, well, perfect. So I guess as always, what are some of the quick tips that you would give our couples as we wrap up seating, as they go out and continue with their planning?
I'd make a decision before wedding day, before wedding week, before your RSVPs come in, whether or not you're going to do assigned seating so that you can make sure to account for enough tables and chairs. I would, once you get majority of your RSVPs in, I would start going ahead and working on your seating chart. So you can find a program online, you can use sticky notes, but just go ahead and start placing people at tables. You can always move them around once you finalize the number. And then once you get to the week of, I would just finalize that and print it on a seating chart. And I would recommend that you do assigned seating majority of the time.